Hi, my name is Amber, and this is my August wrap-up. This month I didn't really have any set reads. I kind of just went on my shelf and went, what are some ones that I've had on my shelf for the longest time and just haven't picked up, and kind of grabbed those and went from there. Now if you follow my Instagram, I did set up a TBR, which I've been trying to do each month to try and help me out with planning what I'm going to read for the month. I did not get to all of them, unfortunately, but I did get most of them done, which I am proud of, so let's get started. The first book that I read this month was These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. Again, I'm a giant Illuminae fan, and I actually really enjoyed Hunted, which I just recently read by Megan Spooner, and I enjoy both these authors and their writing, and this is one that everybody raves about that I just never got around to picking up. I finally got to it this month and I adored it. It was amazing. After their spaceship crashes, two survivors, Lilac and Tarver, actually get stranded on this new planet and have to survive and find a way home. I did not know that this only followed two characters when I first read it, and by the end of it I was actually shocked by how much I was drawn into the story and really loved these characters and really loved this entire world, even though there were only two characters mainly in the whole book. Now this book kind of tore me apart in a lot of different ways. There are some scenes that I'm not going to spoil anything, but kind of really shocked me that they happened in the way that they happened. I was not expecting it. It definitely has me intrigued to continue the rest of the series, which I hope to really soon, especially since I know the rest of the series follows different characters each book, so I'm really intrigued to see how all of these are going to connect. Again, I love science fiction and I adored everything about this, and I'm not surprised that I enjoyed this as much as I did because I knew I was going to. It was a lot of fun and I ended up giving it 5 stars. Next, I picked up Trial by Fire by Josephine Angelini. This is one that I've had my eye on since it came out, but there were multiple cover changes that had me wanting to just never pick it up. I waited and waited until I knew for sure that all the paperbacks were going to have the same covers, and finally picked up the first one a couple years back. I absolutely adore these covers. I think they're beautiful and they all match perfectly, which is something that just seems to not want to happen anymore with series. It's a story about witches, which I was thoroughly intrigued about because I had never read a book about witches yet. I've read them when there were witch characters, but nothing where the main storyline and the main characters were all witches. Lily is just a normal girl, but she has a lot of health issues which cause her to have a very difficult life. She ends up in a completely different Salem, and this one is full of monsters and other witches and very powerful women, including a different version of herself called Lillian, who has a ton of power and actually kind of rules over this world. In this new world, she actually is healthy and she has a ton of power, and she's really learning more about herself. This has a fantastic romance. This has amazing powers that you just want to learn more about this world and more about the magic. I really enjoyed everything about this, and the way it left off makes me wanting the second book so much because I know I'm going to enjoy that one so much more. So I'm really hoping to pick the second one up and continue on with the series soon, but I ended up giving this 5 stars. Next, I picked up The Jewel by Amy Ewing. This book. I was not expecting this at all. I went into this book knowing what pretty much everybody knew. It was very similar to The Selection. That's what we were being told. Every part of promotion that you saw for this was like, it's very similar to Selection. Fans of The Selections will love this. I think that was the reason why a lot of people didn't pick it up, is because they thought it was going to be very similar to that and they didn't enjoy The Selection. I personally love The Selection series a lot, so that had me reaching for this a little bit more. But honestly, outside of the cover being similar and the first about 10 pages of this book being really similar to Selection, after that, it's nothing like the Selection series. This is a world where at a certain age, all girls are tested to find out if they can be surrogates for royalty. The royalty can't have their own children, so these girls are tested, and once they are positive that they could be a surrogate, they are taken away from their families and trained up to a certain point in which they are auctioned off to become a surrogate for a royal family. That already is completely different than the Selection series, in my opinion at least. But when reading this, I did not expect it to be as dark and weird as it was. It was so strange and so dark compared to what I was imagining this was going to be like. I don't want to spoil anything, but I feel like the only way to describe how strange it is to say things that happened in the book, but I just was not expecting this at all. I was not expecting this. There's a lot of violence and a lot of weird things that happened, and there is a romance. I don't hate the romance, but I know a lot of people have a problem with the romance because it is a little quick, which, I mean, you kind of understand when you know what the main character has gone through her whole life. You kind of get it a little bit, but it is really quick and a little strange. It kind of feels like there are parts of the relationship that should have happened, or it should have maybe started a little earlier. It takes a while to get to the romance. I didn't have a hard time reading this. I definitely wanted to read it. It was interesting and it definitely had my interest in a lot of ways, but something still kind of felt a little weird, especially with the romance being a little quick, and I don't know, overall it wasn't what I hoped it would be, but I did still enjoy it, and it definitely by the end had me intrigued and wanting to read the rest of the series. So I do plan on picking those up and hopefully continuing with this, but I ended up giving this 4 stars. Next, I picked up Little and Lion by Brandy Colbert. I received this through Book of the Month this month. This is a story about Suzette, who after spending time at a boarding school comes home for the summer to spend time with her family. This is her story of dealing with her sexuality, racism, and as well as trying to support and help out her brother who's dealing with bipolar disorder. She's coming home to a town where her childhood crush is, but she's also starting to have feelings for the girl that her brother is in love with. This is a really interesting story, and it deals with a lot of serious issues, and I really love these characters. You really feel for them, and they're just really well written out in my opinion. I thought the characters were great. It's really hard to describe how I felt about this book. One, I think it was part of the time that I was reading this, I just wasn't really into it and didn't really want to read it right now, and I think I kind of forced myself to, which kind of made it worse for my enjoyment of it. But there were also some parts in the writing and the story that just kind of felt a little off. It felt like there were pieces missing that should have happened, or parts of the story that should have been there that weren't. But overall, I still think it was an enjoyable read, but I ended up giving it 3 stars. I had a different plan of what I had planned on reading next this month, but after picking up a couple of books at a used bookstore, that kind of changed really quickly. The last 2 books that I read this month were Sweet Peril and Sweet Reckoning, both by Wendy Higgins. This is the second and third book in the Sweet trilogy. I really enjoyed the first book, which I read last month as part of the biannual bibliothon. I just dove straight into these, and I read them really quickly, both of them only in a couple of days, and it probably could have been faster if it weren't for the traveling and visiting family that was going on this month for me. I know there's a 4th book out that is supposed to be Kaiden's point of view on everything. I've heard mixed things about it, but I still definitely want to pick it up because I adore Kaiden. I just loved this, and I think it ended really, really well. I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't read this trilogy yet. If you enjoy Angel and Demons in your books, you're definitely going to enjoy the series. It was a lot of fun. Had some moments that had me cracking up. I enjoy these characters so much, and you feel so much for these characters, and I just loved everything about the series. Definitely my kind of series, and I loved it very much. I ended up giving both of these 5 out of 5 stars. So those are all the books that I read in the month of August. Let me know down below if you read any of these and what your thoughts are. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.